we just had a good time, and we got all carried away and everything else. But in verse 7 of Galatians chapter 4 is where I want to pick up today. And it says, wherefore thou art no more servants, but a son, and if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. No longer servants, but sons, and as sons, heirs of God. Somebody say, I am an heir to God. What that really means is that we have something that really qualifies us for things we should never be qualified for. Being chosen. Adopted. Last week we talked more about adoption. This week I want to talk more about chosen, and we'll tie all this up in a big knot and send you home happy, all right? The best way I can describe being chosen as an heir, someone that receives an inheritance, you have something coming to you that you really don't deserve. And because you have something coming to you that you really don't deserve, when it comes, people can look at you and not understand, how can that person be so blessed? How can Jade and Makira get up there being as young as they are and sing like that? How can our praise team be able to do music like that? And just as a reference, they had one practice is all they had, and they were able to do that and produce that. And if you were here Wednesday, we even had a whole service of just that. How are they able to do that? It's because they have an inheritance. And when their time comes and they receive it, things happen to them that's really not fair in the natural. And the best way I know how to describe this is not too long ago, I was on a mission trip in Africa, and my destination was in South Africa, and I had been on a plane for about 4 days, and I'm sure our brothers and sisters from Kenya understand that's a very long flight. They're all the way in Kenya. I was on the west side heading down south. They're all the way over on the other side, and they have to fly much further than I probably even have to imagine. But at this point, between layovers and airplanes, can I just forget the Bible just for a second? Not totally, we'll come back to it, but just let me tell you a story. I was in this place. I was tired. I was wore out. It was my first time in Africa. And because of this, I took way too much baggage. And if you've ever traveled, this is a sermon in itself. People that are on a move, that are going somewhere, don't take a lot of baggage because it's a whole lot to carry around. It's a whole lot to deal with. And nowadays, they're even beginning to make you pay for the extra baggage that you take. Isn't that amazing? I wish some preacher would just grab that and take it and do something with it. But I was in a place where I had been traveling for 4 days. I was just slap dab wore out, just wanted to sit down. And to beat it all kinds of things had happened, and I don't even have time to go into that. But it came time to board the plane in Ghana, and I was going to take about a 9-hour flight to Johannesburg, and then I had to take about a 2-hour flight from Johannesburg to Cape Town, and then I had to take about a 3-hour flight from Cape Town to a place called Port Elizabeth and get on a bus and ride 6 hours all the way to a town called Durban. And I was so distraught about this. Because if you've been on a plane locked up in a box for 4 days, you have an understanding. I'm sure Mark and Cody back there have a deep understanding because they just got back from Russia. They totally understand where I'm coming from. It was a difficult place for me to be in, and to beat it all, I finally get to the airport, and I began to walk around, and I just got my baggage and everything else, and I was getting ready to go on the transfer flight, and I stepped around the edge of the little building they had set there, and there was a line as far as I could see. And I'm in the back of the line, and I compare it almost to the amusement parks like you are about to go to. You know, when it gets real serious, they've got signs like 1 hour waiting beyond this point, 2 hour waiting beyond this point. When I see those signs, I just go the other direction. There ain't nothing I want to ride I'm going to stand for 2 hours in line for. That's just me. And I'm in this place. I was so discouraged. And this is nothing to you because sometimes I feel like I'm dipped in the wrong paint. And if you don't know what that means, it's all right. Because I was the only middle of the Oreo in all the place. I stood out. That's why I would love just to sit right in between you and take a nice picture. I was the only one in the place, so I stood out anyway. But how many knows God will take situations and cause you to stand out? And I see this little airline attendant going through the line, looking at everybody. And I could see her coming from a long ways because I was a long ways to the gate. There was all types of delays and everything else going on. And she finally got to me, and she said, "You come with me." And she had 2 porters with her that said, "Grab his bags." And she said, "Follow me." And she took me out of the line, and she pulled the little chain aside and opened up this little walkway. And I began to walk down past all these people that would have taken me hours to get through. And I wasn't even carrying anything because I had people carrying my bags. I was scared. Because if anyone has ever traveled with me whatsoever, Stephen and Lori, we went on a couple trips, and they said, I'm never flying with you again. Because for whatever reason, they automatically pick me out and think I'm a terrorist and want to do every kind of search possible known to me. They put me in the room and pull the curtain back and just have a field day. It's crazy. So naturally, I was expecting the worst. I was like, here I am. I'm in a foreign country. I can't even call nobody. No one even knows where I'm at. And I'm in this place. And they began to take me up to the front of the line. And they said, let me see your passport. And if you've ever traveled internationally, you know you never let go of the passport, because that thing's very important. So I'm holding it. They said, no, I need to see it. I had to take just a little bit of faith, allow her to see that thing. And she took out this stamp 3 drawers down that she hadn't normally got out because I could see there was some dust on it. And she put the ink on it, and she stamped my passport, and she stamped my ticket, and it said expedited. I began to think, what's going on here? I wasn't really clicking, wasn't really understanding. And she goes, you can go. And I didn't know where I was supposed to go. She said, you can go, board the plane. And I began to say, board the plane, but there's all these other people, and I was in the back of the line, and my flight's not for like another hour and a half. What do you mean board the plane? She says, just go on. We have upgraded you to a special first-class ticket on a private airplane. Messed me up. I was used to the coach class, where they bring you the food that's half frozen. I sit down on the plane, they got a thing like vichyssoise, and they've got like steak and all this other stuff. And when I got on the plane, I began to look at it, and they had all these nice TVs up everywhere. I didn't have just a little screen. I had to stare up like 14 aisles away. Had all these nice TVs and leather seats, and the whole thing laid back, and you pulled this curtain, and it just became a whole room, and man, I had it made in the shade, I'm telling you what. To beat it all, they said, because that you're going to a specific destination, we're going to cancel all the layovers and take you directly to where you need to go. You can miss the bus and the other 2 connecting flights. We're going to take you to the town you're looking for. It blew me away. And I could find sermons in anything. It's really not that hard for me to do, because I feel like God's blessed me to do that. I began laying in my little stretched out Mac Daddy suite there on the plane, eating my ribeye and drinking my vichyssoise soup, and it was great. Watching the little plasma screen I had in my room, and I began to think about, what does it really mean to be chosen? And as I began to think about that, I had to take time and ask the stewardess, why did you pick me? And she said, well, sir, we went back and we looked at your record, and because you've been faithful to fly with us, and because you've already traveled so far, we just wanted to choose you and upgrade you. And I began to think, and all kinds of things began to turn around. And for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be chosen. Yes. What it means to be chosen is, see, I had to go through the things everyone else had to go through. I just got there quicker. Still had to go through customs, still had to have my bag searched, all that. But the thing was, not only did I have to go through it, and I got there quicker, but he sent me people to help carry all my baggage. And if that don't minister to anybody, let's put it in the natural. God says you are chosen. What does that mean? It means he is hand-selecting you and picking you to go through the things that everyone else has to go through, but he's going to get you there quicker based upon your faithfulness to him and the simple fact that you have already come a long way. And he said, I refuse to allow you to travel your road carrying everything by yourself. So I will send people throughout the course of your life, like Mark and Margie, who can help me out, teach on some family that needs to be done, and we can redeem back the family. He said, for all the baggage you're carrying, don't get stressed out, don't get wore out. He said, I'm sending people to help carry the load with you. And what it really means to be chosen is God's looking at you and he's saying, you're not better than anybody else, but I love you and I've got some place for you to go. So I realize everything's already planned out and you've got the tickets and the plan is routed, but I want to reroute your plan because you are chosen and I want to help you get there. Yes. I wish I had somebody that realized you are chosen. And I began to understand what it meant to have an inheritance. I'm an heir of God. That's why they had to upgrade me and nobody else. Because I have an inheritance. My God likes me to travel first class. I'm convinced. I don't get to do it that often. But I believe a day is coming. I don't get to ride private planes every day, but it happened once. I'm waiting on it to happen again. So if anybody wants to give me one, we'll do it. Last plane I was in, we flew around the church 3 times with Todd driving. And believe me, it was not the private plane. I believe that God's trying to get us to understand what it really means to be chosen. Now, can I open up something today? Before I let you go, let me give you another scripture, actually two more. When we talk about being chosen, some people, a common misconception I see in so many churches and so many people is the fact when God chose you. Some people think because you can sing wonderfully, God chose you.